In this lesson, I'm going to implement the ability to delete individual entries. So we have our listing so far showing the delete buttons, but they haven't done anything so far. I've added the ngClick directive and entered a method called remove, which receives as a parameter the expense that we want to get rid of. We need to create this method in our controller because it's not there at the moment. Let's go to expenses view controller and add that new method to our scope. That method receives as a parameter an expense, and we could search for that particular expense and eliminate it, but I prefer to have all the data handling and all the logic in a service so that we could eventually use this same service somewhere else in our app. So I'm gonna assume that there's a method called remove in our service, and that one will receive expense as well. Let's now go up a little bit and add this method to our service. It's going to be a function receiving an entry. Basically, what we want to do is iterate through our list of elements and get rid of the one where the IDs match. We could easily do that with a for loop, but I prefer to use the _.js library for some of this data handling. There's a method called reject, which will give it a condition and it will return us the collection without the elements that satisfy that condition. So service.entries is going to be equal to this collection that we will get, which is going to be the method reject. We pass it the collection, and we create a method here which will be tested upon each one of the individual elements of that list. It will return a boolean. The condition is that the ID is the same of the ID of the entry. So if that is true, that element will not be returned from this method. So basically this will give us the entire list, but except for the one where the IDs match. If I click remove now, hey, it's not deleting them. Well, it actually is deleting them. Let me go to new expense and go back. Why is that not being updated? I've said so many times that Angular is always updating everything and because of its data binding capabilities. Did I lie to you? No, I didn't. The thing is, traversing an array, as you may know, it's an expensive operation. You don't want to be doing that all the time or your processing power would skyrocket. Your application will be very slow. So when it comes to collections, you have to explicitly tell Angular to watch for changes. If it detects any changes, you can tell it what to do. In this case, we want to tell it to update the scope so that if there are changes in our service collection, I want the scope to be updated and sort of refreshed. So let's implement that here. We get our scope, we access a method called watch, and that one receives two functions as arguments. The first function is to specify what are we watching for. So it will return, I'll type return expenses.entries. That's what we're watching. The second parameter, it will receive that resulting object, let's call it entries, and here we tell it what to do if that is happening. Well, what we tell it, what we want to happen is just this same code. Basically, we want the scope to be updated at all times. That should do the job for us. Let's try again. Now, see how now if you click on delete, you get rid of individual entries. So now we've implemented deletion.